Good evening to all of you. The topic for tonight that I have chosen, which very much is one of the components of what we call enlightenment, is to dig into what really the word enlightenment means, and whether humanity on its own is able to reach enlightenment in light of the diversity of the culture, diversity of opinion. Is it really possible? We have to look at these closely. The word enlightenment, when you look at it from philosophical standpoint of view and even from religious standpoint of view and psychological standpoint, it means to light the candle which is inside someone. That is to say, this assumes that the people are independent thinkers, independent reality, and they, if they try to, they can on their own find the truth and distinguish the truth from falsehood. What does that really mean? There are a lot of discussions. Is the truth objective? Is the truth subjective? Or it is both. That means that reality always is greater than what we think, but at the same time, how we think and how we feel is a reflection of how we really understand reality. Of course, from psychological standpoint, our childhood experiences, the culture, the education that we have received, especially during the first 3 to 5 years, all of them creates what we call archetypes. That means how we look at things, how we understand things, how we interpret things. So as you can see, to become enlightened, we cannot be left alone in isolation to become enlightened. We need good trainings, we need good education. There is a difference, of course, between training and education. The training should not be biased, should not be gender dependent, should not be culture dependent, although it has to be sensitive to the culture. And the question is that whether we can have a proper educational system that then training becomes holistic, the training becomes approachable in the sense of all aspects of human existence. As you know, our intellect is the highest distinction that we have from rest of creation. However, too much emphasis on intellect also can get us to the troubles that we have facing right now. That is to say, is there any power other than intellect? Some people believe there is a power called power of faith. What does faith really mean? Is faith and revelation revelation and social action, are these three are related? What does really mean? It means when Jesus, I am just looking at it from enlightenment perspective. I am not trying to emphasize on any religion, because I have been told that the people come from various backgrounds on these series. When Jesus says, many are called, you are chosen. I believe it is in Matthew chapter 22, verse 14 or so. Or the same thing we see that in Quran, it has been reiterated in the second and the third chapter, that God guides anybody that he wishes, and also the person he doesn't wishes, he is not going to be guided. Of course, these are statements, when you look at it on surface, it can be troublesome, but if you look at it holistically, maybe, at least to me, it means Habib is not only by efforts that you make, that you can make the life, rather it is by the power of unseen. Kant called it metaphysical power. We call it the power which is beyond our comprehension. That also is required in order for you to create meaning in life. As you can see, I'm not using the word religion, but I'm saying that whether you are a scientist, such as Einstein, such as if you are a philosopher, such as Plato, such as Kant, they all believed that there is a force, and that force is unknowable in its essence, but attributes are everywhere. And very much psychology and sociology has come to the point to say, yes, in order to live a harmonious life as an individual, as a society, as an institution, and the harmony between the of them, you need the reliance on that cohesive force, whatever is that. Is the cohesive force is what we call revelation? Can we really live without that power? Is really philosophy helps us to be independent of that force, creative force? Is science can help us? Those of you who have been in this seminar, you see that this is the first time that I'm raising this because you have seen me always encouraging you to read philosophy, read scientific books, but well, another dimension also is there, that neither the philosopher, neither the scientist can give us the serenity that we need to have. Of course, I'm not preaching that religion by itself can help us. I am of those who believe that religion has to have a specific definition in order to be in line with that cohesive force. Religion, science, philosophy, if we consider them component of that primal force, primal will, then it may be helpful in our understanding of self and others. So enlightenment requires faith. Faith creates hope. Faith doesn't mean that you don't do your best. Faith means that within you, you are able to fathom the reality if you align yourself with the universal laws that are created. What do I mean by universal laws? You know, science is about discovering universal laws. Question might rise, what is a universal law? Is it Newtonian physics that we are after? Is it quantum physics? Is it really the science or the laws of the soul and the mind and the body? Is the reality physical? See, all of these questions should somehow be tackled in your mind. Is the reality what the appearance actually gives us? Isn't that an illusion? Is reality is what is unknown, really? So do you see, I am trying to show you that you have to have a new paradigm. Paradigm shift is required if we want to deal in this complex world. Do you know we are entered a century while back, which started, we call it 20th century. 20th century for some people were very, very dark, and nobody really can deny that. But at the same time, some called it century of light, such as the philosophers that I know, social science, even in religion. You see that in talks of Abdul Baha, he referred to it as century of light. Why? Is there any dichotomy here? What is the light in this century? And I want to concentrate on that to see why the century can be filled with darkness and light at the same time, and that creates enlightenment. Enlightenment appears when a person is able to think in a dialectical pattern and in a critical fashion. By dialectical pattern, I mean, I am using the same ideology that Plato and Hegel used it, that everything has at least two sides. And the reality is neither this side or that side. Maybe it is something beyond these two sides. And that became very apparent in 20th century. One of the biggest benefits of 20th century was that we started to question everything. Questioning is very good, but questioning is good if it can help us to improve our condition. All the old ideologies fell apart. The concepts such as concept of God started to fall apart. Whether when I say it fell apart, it only showed us that the old definitions doesn't work anymore. I believe wholeheartedly with what Nietzsche in the Gay Science stated, God is dead. And in Das said Zoroaster, which is another major work of him, he says, and we have killed him. He did not believe that we have to deny a force called God, God, but he very much made us mindful that if those old definitions to be held, he says, you just disrespect your own self. The books were written, such as The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine, Paine, that said everything has to be changed. How we think, how we feel. So it was a century of darkness for those people who wanted to uphold the old dogma. But there were some who say, do you know, at the depth of darkness, there might be light, which is shining. Why we call it century of light then? Because there is a hope. Century of light means that there is a future filled with solution, filled with holistic solution. It was a darkness because the old system of thinking in philosophy, in psychology, in politics, in religion doesn't work anymore. So it was a darkness. But if you use Hegel, that darkness meant there is a light. And those who intone themselves with light, they become enlightened. So as you can see, I posed many things for you in a very short narrative. First is this: how actually we can change the future. Can humanity on its own? Does it? Can, if the minds of the universe get together and break the code, is morality something which is built in culture, or it is initiated with religion, or it is initiated with the human inner conscience? These are the questions that nowadays are being discussed, being analyzed. Why the top-notch researchers agree and admit that humanity, no matter how much tries, be enlightened intellectually, be enlightened universally, but unless lives in some qualities that are essential, they cannot become moral. This is very interesting. The ideas such as commitment to the well-being of the entire human race, is that really something that we can just commit? I know that some of you belong to religions that talk about these ideas, but is it really an idea? Is it that utopian city that Plato saw in his famous book, Republic? Is really utopia that Thomas More wrote about it, but we never reached? What is needed, really? I know that we need to be a good citizen. I know that. We need to expand enlightenment and scientific adventures. I believe in that. But do we need some kind of framework? Do we need some kind of fundamental verities, fundamental principles? Who comes and gives us these principles? Should we get to those principles by collective consultation? Consultation can be useful if only we get together and talk. Does dialogue help to resolve issues, really? Do we really need revelation? What is revelation? Is revelation religion, or religion is a means for revelation? Is science a revelation, or the science is a vehicle to understand revelation? You see, this question that I'm raising, you may say, Habib doesn't have a faith, Habib doesn't have this. It's good. You can persecute me left and right, but please think. Some people rather to die than to think. Some people do not want to question their assumptions. Enlightenment starts with being brave. Have a courage to question your assumptions, your faiths, your beliefs. Do you really believe helps us, or transformation helps us? This is a question that I, as a psychologist, always try to struggle with when I see humans who come, who have a high belief system, but they are struggling. Is really improving one's brain, one's mental ability, makes him to be happy? We see not. How do we define human? Are we here for a purpose, or we just here by an accident? I know for a fact, at least based on my humble research, when I say for a fact means until now, that this universe has an aim, has a purpose. And the reason that we are here is to understand the purpose of that creation. I know that you all appreciate poetry, the people such as Rumi, the people such as Khayyam. Khayyam's fundamental question still is valid in 21st century. Where I have come from, where I'm going, what am I doing? It doesn't matter who we are. These three questions has to every day be in front of our life, because today might be the last day of my life. I may go out of my home, I never come back. But I have answered that question. And if I'm mindful of that question, I change my priorities in life. So as you can see, is human is only the body? Is it the mind? Is it the spirit? What is a spirit? I know we believe in it, but what is it? Is there really something called mind or body, as Rumi was suggesting? Isn't all mind? Or, as Russell says, when you do not know how to answer it, he said, just say never mind. Is it really, there is a physics that we are dealing with? Why quantum physics actually reshaped the world? Why everything that we know about the quantum physics, if it's really be understood, that means everything that we have known so far about the world has been nothing but an illusion. Is there really a movement in the universe? Is there any past, present, and future? Is there any time and a space? These are the questions that have validity in enlightenment. Why? Because unless I understand that I am not living in a specific time or a designated place, my behavioral pattern, my thought pattern shall change. Let me explain. If everything that I do, I assume that I'm impacting the universe at that moment, and the universe impacts me, don't you think I will be mindful of my thinking? Please pay attention to what I said. There is no hidden or there is no apparent. Everything is an open space. What do I mean? Because then all humanity will be considered one reality. Because these divisions are an illusion. A psychologist will tell you a necessary illusion. Sometimes illusion is good, but illusion is not reality. We can have different races. We can have different gender, but that is not reality. This new paradigm tells us that a revelation is needed. A revelation that creates an illusion of human mind, human heart. I certainly agree with Kant, Emmanuel, that humanity, no matter how much it tries, it cannot decode the universal code of ethics. To be ethical, that means to see oneness. But he says in the realm that everything is bounded by time and a space and a materialism. How can you create morality? This is why he wrote that very famous book, which I recommend highly that you read it, Metaphysical Principle of Morals. That means Although Kant, in some degrees, was not himself a moral person, as you know. His views on woman was very much confined with time and space, because he considered a woman to be not intelligent, and was influenced by the environment, by cultural settings. He did not believe in the equality of races. Why? He said, no, blacks are inferior. So as you can see, I never make an idol of any of these people. And we shouldn't make idol of anyone. But we have to appreciate what they say, which is good. And I think so far, what he has said, that if you want to create morality by conventional agreement, you cannot. Why? Because different cultures have different definition of what the morality is. So do we need a force which goes beyond philosophical conception, beyond cultural assumptions, which is neither of the West nor of the East, that can somehow create a balance that we need? Does this really what Moses and Jesus and Muhammad and Baha'u'llah meant? That everybody is called, but only few are chosen. If few are chosen, does it really mean conventionally that he comes and says, you are good and you are not good? That will be very childish for the all-knowing God, all-kind God. But could it mean that the ability to recognize that force is within everyone? And those who choose to go beyond that physical confinement, that mental construct, then they may find it. Do you see how I use many are called, few are chosen? Because I ended with this paradigm, and then we open it to question and answer. Is our behavior really is moral if we look at it? I know some of you have joined this who are Jewish, who are Christian. Some of you belong to Baha'i faith. All of you are welcome. But now I am asking a question. The question is this: can we do a good deed? Good deeds without having the component of recognition of the source that infuses energy into the universe, whatever that source may be? I call it hidden source, hidden energy. Einstein called it universal, but hidden energy. Kant said, I cannot define it, but the more and more and more I try to fathom it, I cannot. And that makes me humble. Through my humility, I start to become moral, to become humble. Please pay attention. Is act we taught recognition of that universal source of paradigm shift can help mankind. Answer that question in your mind. Forget your standing as a Jew, Christian, believer, non-believer. Many people do good things, but without any understanding of what they are doing. And they believe in it. They really believe in it. You may forgive me, but many people, in the name of a good deed for humanity, kill humanity. And then they cover it up with religious doctrine. Jihadist movement. When you justify things, you try to rationalize things. Put away those layers of rationalization and then ask yourself, without a recognition of the source, which is neither of the East nor of the West, is neither philosophical nor psychological nor cultural, can that source, if not recognized, give value to our existence? In the field of psychology, I see a lot of suicides, ladies and gentlemen. And suicides are not done by the people who, in our mind, may be poor, may be not educated. No. They are coming from groups that you may not believe it. On the surface successful, on the surface rich, graduating from Harvard, Yale, Cambridge, Princeton. But that doesn't make it. Why? Why is it? What is it? Recognition of what? What is it? What is it that we have to recognize? Why the people, I know some of you are Jew, and I respect that. Why Moses and Jesus and Muhammad, they emphasize on the fact that first you have to believe in me, then you do a good deed. Why? Why is it? The same thing goes on into new revelations, such as Bobby's own Baha'i faith. Why they are insisting on that? I want you to think about these questions. Does it really mean what the followers have fathomed, that unless you follow in names, you are not accepted? Are all the Jews really are saved? Or those who even met Moses or Jesus or Muhammad or Bob or Baha'u'llah or Buddha? It doesn't matter. Just fill in personage. But the question is very critical. What does it mean by recognition? It means knowledge? We see not, because many people have knowledge, but not recognition. Is it really meeting the person such as Moses or Jesus really gives you serenity? In reality, it wasn't. Why? One of the followers of Jesus betrayed him, didn't he? Many of the followers of Moses discredited him. Many followers of Muhammad. See, I am talking without prejudice, because I do not want you to get hanged on to the fact that, no, this is only them, not us. No, don't create that illusion. Instead, concentrate on what is the difference between knowledge and recognition. What are you recognizing? And then ask yourself, is the recognition without pure intention can yield to a good action? These are good questions. Is the paradigm that we build that consists of recognition, and then the second component, the confirmation of that force, which is eternal, universal, the second component. And the third component, the purity of intention. And the fourth component, the universal action. Good, doing a good thing. What is a good thing? Is the good cultural? Is the good religious? Or is the good universal? But how I can distinguish universal if I have not comprehended the recognition of that primal will, primal source? Is primal will is what reveals things in the form of science, in terms of religion, in the form of culture. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have given you enough to make you ponder about the subjective understanding, collective understanding. Can humanity, without a universal force which is beyond human knowledge, can survive? My prediction is that 2022 will be very challenging from every aspect, political, economical. But to me, it's just half of the news. It only shows me, teaches me that there is a need for a paradigm shift. That paradigm should be what we call meaningful, gives meaning, not an illusion of a meaning. And maybe humanity starts to say what Khayyam, Hafiz, Rumi, Kant were asking, what am I doing here? Where am I going? What is my goal? Oh, my goal is recognition of God. God? Really? How can you know about God? Can you know something without making it personal? Can we accept that we believe in unknowable but personal God? Maintain both objectivity and subjectivity, and then use those four elements to create a better blueprint for humanity. And that, to me, is a requirement for enlightenment. That, to me, is what the institutional system should concentrate on. Train teaching people how to think, not what to think. Enable them to become less fearful. And instead of fear, they approach everything based on love, based on understanding. In the next session, I show you that when you increase the degree of your recognition of the universal force, in fact, your fears become lessened, your anxieties become lessened, your depression becomes lessened, and your meaningfulness will increase. And then you see that enlightenment is a process and not the event. Thank you. John, back to you.
Thank you so much for this. And I know that there is some feedback in the chat, and there is a question which relies on what your take is on purity of intention. Do you think it means unselfish or selfless or just an act that doesn't cause immediate harm and it at least has immediate benefits?
See, before I embarked on the field of psychology, I always was trying to understand what does it mean to become selfless. How can I become selfless, for God's sake? What is self? See, I have to ask this question in order to understand the purity of intention. Intention means what motivates you. But what motivates you very much depends on your understanding. Think about it. Think practically, not theoretically. When you are moved to do something, don't you think that your movement, your intention to do something is influenced by many factors? Just ask. Forget I'm a psychologist. Just ask yourself. There are 1,000 reasons why you do something, and it might be 1,000 reasons why you do not do that same thing, right? So then, this selflessness, what does it mean? What is self? The first person in religion who tackled this question was Krishna. Krishna and Buddha have two messages which very much in 21st century they are paying attention to it. One, Krishna in his major work that is attributed to him, called Bhagavad Gita, or in a short, they call it Gita. He said, do you know, fight, the beginning passage of the first book. Can you imagine, John? Rather than saying love, dove, and then everybody fell over, Valentine, none of these things. He said, fight. Fight with what? Fight to his first believer, Arjuna. Fight with whatsoever separates you from reality. What do you mean? He said you have two types of self. A self that separates you, I, my, mine, and a self which is universal. He says, fight with those desires, wills, motivation, intention that separates you, and concentrate on those that unifies you with the rest of the elements of the universe. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 3,500 before Christ. Some people believe 1,500 before Christ, but it is very old. But 21st century even have not understood that, let alone appreciate it. Buddha, see, I'm looking at this thing very practical. He said enlightenment. Enlightenment only occurs when you become selfless. Selfless means find your true identity, which is universal. You have been created noble. You have been created rich. And he says the richness actually shows you that your intention, your thinking, your action, your heart, your mind, see, these separate identities are actually only for comprehension. They are separate. There is no such a thing as I do it with my mind or I do it with my heart. Well, what is this? What is this division? There has no basis for it in psychology. Your heart is nothing but the feelings that you express. Your mind is nothing but the ability for critical thinking, analysis, evaluation. So pure intention, simply to me, selflessness, for me, means think globally, act globally, and be the change that you like to see in the world, as Gandhi emphasized. Selfless doesn't mean that you do not have an identity, you do not have an opinion. Selfless doesn't mean, as some of the organizations have interpreted, oh, individual doesn't mean anything. Really? But the whole world is about individuals. But we need individuals. The word individual means undivided. N-I-N, individual. We need people who are whole. Their mind, their heart, their action, all of them stem from the same unified field of oneness of humanity. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, to be selfless means to make a mark. Be an Einstein of your time. Forgive me. Be a Moses of your time according to your degree, according to your capacity. Be a Jesus of your time. This is what Buddha meant when in the last day, when the people were sad that he is leaving, he is dying. He says, why are you complaining? Why? They said, but you are going. He says, you haven't understood me. You need to be your own Buddha. You need to become your own enlightenment. You need to change the world, as I did. So as you can see, encourage the creation of good individuals with a good intention. Don't say we do not need individuals. In fact, we have a shortage, deficit of the good thinkers who have a good heart, have a good intention, who have recognized the reality And if they recognize the reality, they become humble, they become selfless, they become kind. And that is what selfless really means. Sorry. Okay. I think there is a hand. Jim.
Yeah, thank you very much. You really got to my heart, what you were saying. And so I just looked up this short prayer by Baha'u'llah. Maybe I'll just start it and then see if it picks up with you. It says, intone, O my servant, the verses of God that have been received by thee, as intoned by them who have drawn nigh unto him, that the sweetness of thy melody may kindle thine own soul and attract the hearts of all men. Whoso reciteth in the privacy of his chamber the verses revealed by God, the scattering of angels of the Almighty shall scatter abroad the fragrance of the worlds ushered by his mouth. That's just a portion of it.
That's beautiful, Jim. I have seen similar prayers in all the existing religions of the world, because this is actually the framework. What is prayer? Prayer is not a religious concept. Prayer is a way to commune with that universal force. Prayer is to seek confirmation of what we think to be the right thing if we follow the universal principle. This is why, Jim, if you paid attention to that paradigm, which I'm trying to shift from the present paradigm, on the top was recognition, then was confirmation or assessment, then was pure intention, then was an action. So as you can see, when you read that passage very carefully, you can combine it with other passages by the same author. Make thy praise to be my actions. So through our actions, through our words, the words can create energy, can create the angels, means those hidden forces, when they are positive. This is why so beautifully it has been said. One word is like a fire. Another word is like a light. And the impact of both shall become apparent. When you backbite, you diffuse negativism. You block energy. When you see evil in others, you just show that you are the light. Otherwise, there is no evil in the world. It is how we approach things that becomes negative. So as you can see, my dear friend, if we do things, we pray through our action, through our meditation, through our reflection, what we call yoga in Hinduism and Buddhism, meditation, contemplation, you can see that we become in tone with these verses. What verses? The verses doesn't mean those words and syllables, as these prayers also suggest. Go beyond it to the universe, which doesn't have any words or syllables. It's just a reality that we want to reveal in the time and space. And this is why it is called revelation. Sorry. What is our time, Mr. John?
So we are at 8:30 almost. So
Okay.
to have room for talking about next session. We're going to have it in 2 weeks. It's going to be on, and please correct me if I'm wrong, my calendar app isn't showing up. It's in 2 weeks from today, the 13th. So that means it will be the 27th of January.
Very good. And the Zoom doesn't have any more passwords, so we can advertise it, right, John, universally?
Yes, you can also right now save the link through the participants menu. If you open it up to invite, you can click on that, Alt+I, and invite people.
Any more questions before we end it? Somebody's, let's see.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Religion actually preaches distinction for their followers and obviously commits non-believers to hell. So how can you convince adherents of a religion to give up the privilege that they think God bestowed on them?
Well, Mr. Hakim, you're a Hakim. And I am a humble Riyazakesh. Riyazakesh means try his heart doesn't get anywhere. Hakim means all knowing, all wise. So that is not a religion. The religion that causes distinction, religion that causes professional treatment. I am not going to disrespect it, but I say it's not fitted today. I believe this question is remarkable. Why? Because with these ideas that I gave you, any religion, any ideology, any philosophy that wants to separate you and make you self-centered, you have to abandon. But remember, people are at the adolescent stage of their development. I believe majority of these religious doctrines have been for our childless years. I'm sorry to say that, but it's a fact. Restoring to punishment is what you do to children. And the people who are not educated, parents who are not trained well, restore to punishment. So I don't want to agree with Freud. Freud has a very famous work, Future of an Illusion. Is a very famous work. He says, all of this religious system of the nature that you mentioned, Gilbert, he says these are all belong to the childish years of humanity. And he says they shall die by themselves. Don't worry. In fact, Freud says, don't fight them. They die out. So what should we do, Mr. Freud? He says, just educate humanity about the reality of man, about the oneness of humanity. So my answer to that question is, my friend, any ideology that boosts your ego, get away from it. You are better, you are very exalted, you are the best, you are the best of the best. At the end of the day, you will end up into my office and you need a psychological treatment. because these ideologies made you to be how you are. So I invite you to challenge your ideologies. Challenge them not to question their authority. Let their authority be intact. Challenge your understanding of theology. Don't try to rationalize them, but understand them. And have one yardstick. Does that understanding that I have helps the unification of humankind? Helps my nobility or not? If it doesn't, leave it alone. Go to the higher understanding of revelation. So I hope I addressed the question. We thought saying which religion is good, what religion is bad. I think none of these religions are good or bad. It's a human's understanding that has to be evolved. Education, beginning and the end, true education, scientific education, spiritual education, cosmic love, all of these components are needed in order to have a new generations of man, what we call a new race of man. We have to try. These dark nights shall pass, but they don't pass by just waiting and sitting at home and thinking that God will pass it. God doesn't pass anything. This is another illusion. God already has done what is supposed to be. Guidance has been given. We need to rise from our graves of ignorance, from slumbers. Okay, Albrecht asked a question.
Greetings from Boston. I had a question. So when Abdul Baha talks about Mawasat, the preference of others over yourself, and Viktor Frankl talks about how self-realization can only be achieved through self-transcendence. In other words, a way of purposing your life in service to others. So why emphasize on revelation when these two, there are multiple others that have come to the same conclusion? Why emphasize so much on revelation when sometimes that itself, that concept, sets up walls amongst people?
My friend, let's look at these two things that you mentioned. The first one, what did it say? Reiterate it again. What was the first?
Abdul Baha talked about Mawasat, preference of others over yourself.
Hold on. Forget who says it. I have a Jew, I have a Christian, I have a believer, I have a Hakim, I have philosopher. Let's look at what it says. Don't concern ourselves with who says it. That creates prejudice and evade. One of them says, prefer others to your own self, right? That is called Mawasat. Musawat means at least deal with others as you like to be dealt with you, right? But what does Mr. Frankl say in Search for Meaning? And then eventually for Search for an Ultimate Meaning. These are two famous works of Frankl. Search for meaning means that you go find meaning in this universe when you sacrifice your own interest for the interest of the higher reality. That in a religious term is called mubasat. Do you see that, my brother? That is to say, these two statements are not contradictory. One, it says, seek for the universal meaning, because those limited cultural, traditional, philosophical, political, religious meanings can confine you. Go beyond it. Go beyond it, and then you see that when you go beyond it, there is no culture, but the culture of reality itself. And whosoever passes your path, whosoever crosses your path, consider that person either as a brother, sister, mother, or daughter. Please pay attention. And that is called musawat, means equality. He is as entitled as I am to live a happy life. But when you look at higher meanings, when higher meaning is revealed to you, revelation, then you say, I am here to serve another humanity. My dear brothers, through these twin processes, to actually enable your own noble qualities. When you serve somebody unconditionally, without any string attached, you actually become elevated. You actually become an angel that has been described in the books. Because although you live in the realm of time and space and boundaries, but your mind and your heart is in the realm which has no time and no space. Sorry. Last question, Matthew.
Allah Pa, this is Sogand Secondary Pills, and I'm just, and my husband is Matthew, and I just want to say thank you for the program. It's fabulous, and what we're mentioning, it really touches my heart, because Baha'u'llah, in Baha'i faith, we leaving all the religions, we have to accept before we can become a Baha'i. So what you brought up is the philosophy of the Baha'i faith, that mentioning that if we deny one religion, then we cannot be a Baha'i.
Yes. Do you know, I appreciate your statement. I do not want to make this form a religious form, and I appreciate sharing your perspectives on the religion that you have. And I want to just emphasize, go beyond these religious dominations. Go and accept a religion which is eternal in the past, eternal in the future. These are only transforming steps that we call Judaism, Buddhism, Baha'i faith, or billions of these religions come in the future. The point is not these religions. These religions should not be worshipped. Religions are vehicles, are means. Humanism, humanity, is what is the end. They have come to transform humanity. is about transformation, individual, community, organization, and their institutions. This is why you can be Christian, but you cannot be Christian unless you accept Judaism. You cannot be a Muslim unless you accept Moses and Jesus. But now I want to take it further. Of course you have to do that. You have no other choice. This is not something that you can boast. It is like development of a child. You have 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. When you are 50 years old, you cannot deny the reality of 40, 30, 20. Because unless there was that 1 year old, you could not become 2 years old. This is called, they call it progressive revelation or progressive spiritual, mental, organic evolution. See, I want you to go out of this boundary that somehow think that these ideas, suddenly the sky was opened and this fell on the lap of humankind. No, in fact, because you mentioned Baha'i faith, I do not want to go into any religion, only to invite you to concentrate on the fact that Baha'u'llah, the founder of this religion, has said, I have come only to bring what has been said in the past. I'm only bringing the essence of it and just presented in the very brief and concise manner. Please pay attention, and that passage is from his very famous work, Hidden Words. Don't concentrate on being better. Don't do that. You cannot be human if you ignore them. It's not the matter of being a Baha'i or a Muslim or a Christian. When you ignore somebody else's faith, you are ignoring that person's reality. And we do not ignore them. But that doesn't mean that we accept all the ideologies for today's time. When you tell, for instance, if I say, yes, I believe in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, oh, it sounds very nice, good, but I'm a psychologist. I say, what do you mean? For God's sake. If you believe in that, why you became this? If you really fully, you believe in Judaism, like my Jewish friend and this forum believe, why are you a Muslim or a Baha'i? So it's contradictory. Maybe what you are saying is, don't tell anybody, I'm just telling you, and John, who is a sleepy, and Kim, who is a wise person. You are saying we believe in the fundamental verities of all religion. We don't believe into the social laws of those anymore. It is because of those social laws that they have been evolved. You do not want anybody to treat his wife according to the Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, and. No. Believing simply means maybe those for the time and the age in which they manifested, they're very useful. But fundamentally, they were aiming at transformation of humanity. And that is what we are forced to accept. So with those responses, I just wanted to make sure you understand that it is not an honor to say to someone, you know, I accept you and I accept you and I accept you. If that person is a little sensitive and even intelligent, he says, what do you mean by that? There's an insult in a statement. Can you not accept me as a human being with different ideas? Not that we accept all the religious group, we accept all the people of humanity. In fact, this is a discussion that I bring next time to the table. The problem that we have is that we do not have dialogues. Everybody is in his own chamber because they think they are the best. And to me, that has been the cause of fundamentalism, extremism. If we try to converse, we see that our unified factors are more than our distinctions. Anahita, you are really the last person, and John is going to cut off the whole thing. Go for it. Anahita. Maybe she has slept. John?
This is not that Anahita, by the way. I think maybe they're having a hard time unmuting.
Yeah, I sent a request to unmute.
Unmuting. Unmuted. Are you unmuted now?
I'm sending a request to unmute now.
Unmute yourself, Anahita.
Yeah, I sent her a request to unmute, which brings on the screen the notification. You just click on the button in the middle of the screen.
Are you okay?
She left her computer.
Okay. Here we go. John, you did something. What did you do?
I did nothing. I did nothing. No one unmuted.
Okay.
So we can say that for next session, which is session number 4, we have the recording of this that we pasted online, and Human in the Making Foundation.org will be displaying that video for today. We will have our next video to repeat on the 27th of January, exactly 2 weeks from now. We invite you to come with your definite questions from today. If you have more thinking and reflection, but more importantly, get ready to ask more questions together.
Excellent. And thank you very much for allowing me to be at your service. Thank you.
Thank you.